Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we're going to be sitting down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing. We have Rise of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Rupert Wyatt, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes by Matt Reeves, War for the Planet of the Apes by Matt Reeves, and finally, our newly released, now in theaters film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Wes Ball. So everybody get their skinny mocap suit ready. We're jumping into a CGI world, but we are going to have a good time. So please stay tuned and enjoy the show. Daily, how we doing over there?
Thomas Recker of the Daily Ratings, of the review podcast, of the internet.
It is a monkey week. It is
of the week.
How was your Planet of the Apes week, my friend? I think you enjoyed it so much you cut Alfred Hitchcock away.
Yeah.
I was thinking we're gonna do Birds. Thank God I didn't watch it.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Yeah, folks, like we discussed last week, there's potential maybe doing The Birds with the Apes. But I feel like alongside of this being so franchise-focused, was just such a different movie, especially these first three, the reboot trilogy, or the prequel trilogy, we'll call it.
Yeah.
They're just like such different movies that I feel like The Birds was almost too much in the blockbuster direction.
I kind of agree. I queued it up on my Amazon Prime, and then I was like, I don't feel like watching this.
yeah, I guess it's really dated too.
Yeah, it really didn't figure. I watched all three of these.
Yeah.
Which we had dinner over the weekend, so we were
chipping away
at it a little bit. But I'm glad we had some good thoughts on it, I think. But yeah, it just didn't. Birds was just a little bit too drastic.
Yeah, and honestly, just for some breathing room too. So, but glad to unpack this. These really gave me appreciation for Joe Letteri, I believe his name is, or Letteri, senior supervisor over at Weta Works, Weta FX. Just the tech angle behind all these films. That's really what was my skin in the game for it.
Yeah, we talked about it in the previous weeks leading up to this. We both never seen a single one of these three. And I'm glad that we both watched the three then, because it was a trilogy I feel like no one asked for.
Yeah.
People love the Star Wars. People love the Lord of the Rings. People love Harry Potter.
Yep.
And there's a few others you can mention. I've never met the Planet of the Apes guy.
I know.
Who's like, I Middle Earth, I respect it, but I'm Planet of the Apes for me. I've never met that guy or gal.
Or even like among like 70s properties, like you get Star Wars, you get Star Trek, and what's in third place? Planet of the Apes?
Right.
No thanks.
Funniest thing, by the way, I was flipping through my YouTube TV, and I think it was FX that has the rights to play the Planet of the Apes movies. And they're of course, the new one's out. They're milking those, so they're probably just on repeat. But I turned on the Mark Wahlberg one for 10 minutes. And within 30 seconds, I'm going, this is the worst Star Trek episode I've ever seen in my life.
It is. It's like one of those things where they go to the planet, they make it like capture it a little bit, and then they have to find the solution. I went down a rabbit hole, which I'll mention in one of the reviews for Rise. I went down a rabbit hole of that film. Honestly, just spoiled myself on it, and that movie is insane. Like, that movie may be like a worst of the worst.
Yeah, the Mark Wahlberg one. Yeah.
And Tim Burton directs it, which is just such a weird match.
I think it's a black sheep of the franchise, for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't even know if people realize that, with Kingdom of the Planet Apes out, the latest film makes it 10 films in the franchise.
Yep. And of course, we'll talk about it. I mean, I guess it's the big spoiler alert for the new film, but a 9-movie saga is being flirted.
See, I'm getting different reports. You had said that over the weekend.
Yeah?
My heart sunk in sadness. It's like we're going to get 9 new Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah.
I had heard that maybe they're just going to test out a trilogy. It is greenlit for a trilogy based on the success of this one.
Okay.
And then I guess we see how the trilogy does to see what happens.
That's
after
a little
that.
less concerning then. I can get behind
don't need
that.
it. Don't need it.
Definitely.
And
I probably don't need 3 either, but I guess they're going to operate in 3s. So
you brought up Andy Serkis and Weta. That's going to be the proponent and just props. What if these movies are good or bad that we're about to talk to?
Sure.
Props for Andy Serkis just
Yes.
owning this.
Absolutely.
I mean, he made the franchise.
Absolutely.
Along with Weta Digital and stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into the dirty laundry of were they even asked to do the reboot? Were they not interested? Were they on other projects? Did you get into any of that? Is there bad blood?
No, I think Serkis might have a producer credit on the new one, but it's kind of uncertain to why they wouldn't bring him back other than like story reasons. And I feel like that's where the franchise burden of this new one for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, it just feels like they're trying to separate themselves from this reboot trilogy or this prequel trilogy just to avoid like saying like, oh, you don't have to do that homework. Don't worry about it. Like, we're doing our own thing now.
And they are doing their own thing now. Yeah.
Yes. There's a significant time jump in it. 0 returning characters. I mean, even like Caesar is like a myth, basically.
Yeah, well, we're like 300 years.
Yeah, it's something like that. I forget what the actual time jump is on Kingdom. I was trying to stay awake as much as possible.
I mean, honestly, and maybe he's not a producer on it, Andy Serkis.
Oh,
but maybe
not?
there's
Okay.
not blood. I mean, it could just be a thing of just like, I can't dedicate myself to 3 more of these fucking ones.
Sure, absolutely. And Serkis is a talent that he's probably on to bigger and better things, where this is just furthering the already existing tech with motion capture.
The big news in the past week since last episode is Warner Brothers announced I believe a dual movie.
Yep.
I saw one movie and then a report or two that said it's slated for 2 films called The Hunt for Gollum.
Yeah.
So Andy Serkis is going to direct. Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens, who is the main writing team back in the OG Lord of the Rings movies, they're going to be writing it. Peter Jackson is apparently every step of the way involved.
That's great.
And producing. And the idea is everyone's thinking that it's not going to be Gollum-centric. It's actually going to be Aragorn-centric with maybe a little bit of Gandalf.
You got through. I mean,
in the event, right? But in the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, Bilbo leaves. Gandalf entrusts the ring with Frodo, and then Gandalf runs off to go and try to find Gollum, who was lost and got trapped by Isengard, and that's all in the film and everything like that. But it's actually quite a time gap, and he enlists Aragorn to help him track him down, back because he's still Strider at that point. But anyway, big time jump there. We're thinking that's where the movie's going to land. So
interesting.
Andy Serkis
is directing as well.
Yes.
So that's clearly the bigger fish to fry. No less his obvious connection to loving that original work with Tolkien. So.
But anyway, that's that.
Back to the apes. No. I want to give a quick side recommendation just because you showed me this. I don't usually give game recommendations.
Well, we covered hardcore already.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm sorry. There's something different? Okay, go ahead.
No. This was actually a video game recommendation from you.
Impossible.
Not impossible. A while back, you showed me a dope indie game called Ape Out.
Yes.
A phenomenal game. And I can't tell you how much it was a joy going back and replaying that game. It's a short game, too, after watching these movies and being able to...
no connection to Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, but you play the ape. And all half of these films are prison escape movies, so, Ape Out is about escaping,
Ape Out, you love the soundtrack for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You almost play the soundtrack.
Yes.
As it goes, and it's jazz.
The percussion are like the kills of the ape and like the scientists that you.
Is there a vinyl attached to that? Could you buy that on vinyl?
I don't know. I think actually, if I remember, there's like vinyl aesthetic in the game that like you're playing, side A, side B of something. So.
Oh man, if they ever do a print of that, that's a good birthday gift for you.
Yeah. But I have a full-hearted game recommendation if you're really part of this ape mayhem. Ape Out, excellent indie game.
Nice. I'm glad you returned to that.
Yeah, it was great. And that's all you. You found that one originally.
Boy. What a weird one. That's right.
Yeah, you really don't come with game recommendations.
I will say I went on a website the other day, and I mean, this is just I'm borderline psychopath. I went. It's a tech website that I like.
Okay.
And they have a lot of gaming reviews, just little stuff as far as these are the best These are the best solid state drives to update your PS5.
Oh, sure.
This kind of stuff.
All angles.
And literally in my head, I'm going to go, I think I'm going to start checking out a few game sites. Just for a while, build up a base knowledge, and then, because most of my friends play video games.
Yeah.
You very much included. And then just have it come, what if I just surprise them one day? And I'm just in the know, or for a gift to give you a solid state drive.
Yes.
Like hours and hours of just reading.
Well, that's just a good investment. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Hours of reading for just basically one joke in a conversation I can have with you
Like
in the future.
months down the road. like really like the long play.
Anyway, did you ever get what is your solid state drive right now?
I think
Terabyte,
it's
2 terabytes?
no,
What do you got?
no. I think it's 512.
Man,
I mean, it's not
how
a
do you get
laptop.
by?
Well, now my desktop is practically unusable. I mean, I got to throw the thing out because it's just slow as molasses. You get spoiled by it.
I wouldn't know. As we work on a 12-year-old machine.
I don't know why you're going down this rabbit hole. You're just gonna expose the technical framework of what we do on the podcast.
Okay, all right. Many tangents. Let's get back on track.
Back with the apes.
Should we
Back
start
on the
any
planet.
opening notes again, or
No,
Ape
no.
Out, great game?
Yeah, Ape
Okay.
Out, great game. That's the opening note.
Let's jump back to 2011. This is directed by Rupert Wyatt, and it really is, not that the director's not important, but Weta and Andy Serkis is crucial here.
Absolutely.
But 2011, these are all PG-13. This is an hour and 45 minutes, and we're entering in a new era of Planet of the Apes. Vin, I'll toss it to you. How do we enter into this world? How are we rebranding? And how do we like it?
Well, with this much Golden Gate Bridge action, we should have watched Vertigo this week.
Nice, yeah.
This is a San Francisco movie. 2011 marks 10 years as an attempt at a reboot and serves this trilogy as a origin prequel trilogy. I'm going to say reboot as a faux pas, but it really is a prequel trilogy, not really a reboot, where the 2001 film with Tim Burton and Mark Wahlberg, that was like a recreation, a reboot of that first Planet of the Apes from 1968. And I'll say I'm flying blind on references from those original 5 films, plus the Tim Burton, Mark Wahlberg joint. I have some slight regrets not covering the original 5 this week, if anything, just to see how their blockbusterness kind of lines up with this. Being a modern blockbuster, I found that kind of a curiosity on my end. But I, however, like I said, zero regrets in not covering the 2001 remake, and went down a huge rabbit hole of how bad that is, including just how insane the ending of that film is. I just fully spoiled myself on it, and I'm just so glad I didn't watch it. So maybe down the road as a guilty something, not a guilty pleasure.
Something with the with the 5 originals. I hear some are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So the only thing I think we're missing, there are some Easter eggs apparently.
Yeah.
And there are some little nods that these 3 that we're getting into actually give to the originals. So for that sake, it would be interesting, but it's a lot of time to dedicate to just pick up on some Easter eggs.
It would basically be the Fast and Furious 10 spot again. Who really cares about these 60s, 70s films? And they were pumped out like clockwork, too. They're yearly releases after 68.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Apparently some are all right.
Yeah.
But...
Charlton Heston, the first one.
In due time. Yeah.
Damn dirty apes. Little callbacks like that are obvious, but I feel like I bring it up as a note because there might be some enjoyment in this first one that I'm not picking up. That some people might pick up. I don't know. A concerning factor going into this was the swap of directors, but only really because it was not solely Matt Reeves' trilogy to run with, and I will say that again for the next film in the writing department as well, because Matt Reeves writes and directs War for Planet of the Apes, the last of the trilogy. And despite a few flourishes towards the end, I found this film to be just very bland. Rupert Wyatt was not bringing his A game here, and doesn't really have a recognizable catalog of films I can point to examples.
Yeah, it could be his A game and nobody knows.
Yeah, right. Then he's no other game. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, or RPA, sets us back before any sentient apes existed. And as we follow what will become our main character for the trilogy, Caesar. James Franco is a scientist studying gene therapy testing on monkeys in an attempt to cure Alzheimer's. This leads to a pet experiment at home when his funding is cut. The small chimp Caesar. Raised with love, we flash forward to an incident that locks him in containment and structures the rest of the film like a prison break of sorts, something that will become fairly common for a theme in these future films, and also like plot structure-wise, of that it's about escaping containment. Caesar is forced to adapt more and more, while his hatred of his captors grow along with it. I got complicated thoughts on this story and script. It's very... It unfortunately plagues every film this week to various degrees. I think telling the origin story stripped of the sci-fi elements of the original films sounds interesting on paper. Each of these movies tried to strip down the story to create a ethical or moral lesson through a big tech blockbuster, which I'm glad they're trying to shoot for something. But as far as prequels goes, I just feel like this had such little insight and little value to add to the world. Beyond those few Easter eggs of the original films, I felt the insight the film gives to the human or primal nature to be very shallow, and shallow is really the word I was circling this week.
This film, I think, was really not taking full advantage of its PG-13 rating. Like, that's for sure.
Sure.
It very weak first entry to try to hook us for what is absolutely trying to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If this didn't... This just needed to have a modicum of success to launch, to keep it going with their plans. A weak first entry and very, very weak human element.
Oh, yeah.
The writing was bad. The acting almost across the board was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or phoning it in a little bit. I mean... I
feel like James Franco's phoning it in. I mean, not that I'm repping for James Franco, but
I don't know. And I feel like I can't blame them too much, because the character development and the writing is just generic trash.
Yeah.
It really was unimpressive. It was very much Saturday morning on TNT as you're folding laundry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is not a sit down on a Friday night with a partner or friends and watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really kind of a toss away. I think shallow is a very good word. I mean, one of my notes basically is that the setup for showing the intelligence and love of people there is for Caesar is relatively good. But after building that up for a lot of the movie, I think it comes too fast, and we don't have enough time is given towards his love of the apes. Because I see the movie as basically we have Caesar loves humans, Caesar in confusion, and then Caesar loves apes.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough runway to really get into all three of those things where anything packs a punch.
Sure. Or maybe even hyper-condense that. I mean, I feel like so much of the objective of the story boils down to human bad, monkey good. So, even with a breezy hour and 40 runtime, I just felt the story dragged. I feel like an alternate way to go about this is hyper-condense this arc for Caesar, make it more about like a very quick escalation of what's going on with the apes and how they are, bridging into, kind of sentient life.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely where we need to get to by the end of the film. The only way I would want it quickened or more intense is... where they start us off is so lovey-dovey.
Sure.
How is this going to,
It's trying to go almost like really in a way that like really builds Caesar as a main character, but he gets shafted as being the main character for the next two films. So it's just like only until that third one are we finally in full effect of having Caesar as a main character.
You don't think he's really the main character in two?
It's just that he shares the time with a meaty human element.
Yeah.
And like I'll say, hand-me-down blockbuster stars, Yeah. But I just feel like this wanted to be Caesar's trilogy and Circus's trilogy for that reason.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't know. It just gets preoccupied in the ape mayhem. It gets preoccupied in its blockbuster shell.
And I'm not going to disagree with this. Nowhere near as bad as what we just dealt with the Kong movie.
No.
You know what I mean? Where the humans are. Throw them out, throw them in the trash because they're useless. They are useless.
Right.
Oh my gosh. What is the word?
Exposition.
Exposition machines, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's better than that.
Yeah.
But again, it's just if we start so lovey-dovey,
Mm-hmm.
we really need to have Caesar go through some... Caesar needs to be somewhere towards the end.
Yeah.
Mentally and emotionally. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be strong enough where we are buying it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they go off, especially when we see where 2 and 3 goes.
Yeah.
It's like, what started all of this off? Okay.
Yeah,
a few things happen, you know what I mean?
You're right.
So
maybe a loving dad once,
Right.
beat up a bully.
That you kind of decided to not like anymore for a bad reason. I don't know. It didn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But regardless, that's kind of my thing. Just not enough runway to really cover all the emotional aspects that we needed.
Exactly. And that's where my comment is like, I almost wish that it picked even more surface level approach to it because it feels like what we get is not enough and clearly just lean into the technical spectacle of this. I also think the reaction to the ape escalation was also just really frustrating to me. Both while the pieces are coming together, the breadcrumbs of like, okay, these apes are a problem, and especially in the reaction of once shit starts going down, it just really lost me, and that's unfortunate because that's the climax of this film. So it really just kind of lost me.
I was dozing off. The next day I had to go back and watch it a little bit, literally like last 10 minutes.
That's great. We get pre-canceled James Franco as our lead and marks one of many unimpressive human-focused roles. Like we've been talking about, folks, the praise of the trilogy should rightfully go to Andy Serkis's Caesar performance, which, although it lacks the dialogue and the drama in future films that we get, for story reasons, most importantly, there is just something extra impressive about this film and how he's working all non-verbally. I feel like... that's something that's like lost in praise even in the animation space of how animators will study real animals or something like that. Serkis is doing like some method acting to become an ape. And I feel like it really deserves a lot of praise when it comes to that.
My big takeaway is the best part of this movie is when you're watching the movie and just thinking about how Andy Serkis is acting his ass off.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
Yep.
You're not really invested too much.
Right.
But he's like, wow, Andy Serkis did this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. and I think that's still an appreciation of the film and an appreciation of the filmmaking that's going on there. So, and that's really one of the larger aspects I was excited to check out for these films was the digital performance work driven by Andy Serkis. As we commented in the beginning, this was really the next stepping stone for the tech we see with Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. And I can tell you that after watching the newest film, there really is a legacy in place for this franchise to push motion capture effects with each entry. Mm-hmm. That is something I feel like is worth paying attention to and skin in the game for me as a reviewer. Leading the technical team is Joe Latretti, senior visual effects artist at Weta FX, and of course starting his collaboration on Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. The digital effects, I think, hold up pretty well, especially on close-ups. The standout shots of all of these are always found in close-ups when it's just one ape, where the fidelity is at its highest. When the monkeys really get going in action, I'm not so sure. It seems like the quality suffers quite a bit when there are a lot of figures, a lot of animation on screen. Oddly enough, that will kind of be the case for our newest film as well. Nowhere like as bad looking as it is in this, just because of its age, but has a similar thing where it's like when it's like one of two characters on screen, you can tell like it's just like so much higher quality than when it's a whole crowd of apes or anything like that.
It was kind of a concern about this latest one. Watching some clips, watching some trailers and stuff, even still images, it kind of concerned me of how much of a little bit video gamey it looked.
Oh,
and
yes.
I don't think we were getting that too much as we entered into the last the War of the Planet of the Apes, or War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
I would say that this looks pretty. Let's be honest, it's 13 years old at this point.
Yeah,
this film that's very old for CGI. How much? It is the movie. It is half the movie is CGI.
Yep.
I would say it's impressive and it's not ruining it for you, but very noticeable.
Yeah.
And again, it's impressive because it's an older film at this point. But I would say even when we're dealing with Caesar solely, there is things. When he goes to touch things, it doesn't seem like he's really touching the thing. It kind of almost seemed like this is a green screened box, like a green box, and it doesn't quite feel there. And at times, very much throughout basically the whole film, it's video gamey.
Yeah.
Good video game, but video gamey.
Yeah, in how emphasize the animations, like the actual physicality of the apes have to be, and you hit it right on the money as far as the new one. That I feel like they have jumped into the deep end of making this more video gamey, more even like slightly anime in ways of how I don't know how excessive their animations are.
Well, the reason why I'm also side-eyeing it is because they're not. It's a different team now.
Yes,
like Weta is.
I think it's still some of Weta.
Okay, all right.
But it's not like Joe and like there's a 4 team that happens with this trilogy that
and Weta. I mean, Weta is not just that singular thing that Lord of the Rings used now. It broke off into multiple things.
Oh, for sure.
Peter Jackson sold it. Peter Jackson now bought it again.
Yep.
And then there's a bunch of digital or FX. Then there's a different also side of what it's weird now. You know what I mean? Because it's so
big.
It's so huge.
Yeah, you hit on it actually in our intro of that. There's Weta Digital, that it's probably one of the biggest branches, but bigger than even like the whole in a lot of ways, just because digital is the primary way of doing it.
And there's only a few companies that are really doing, like Industrial Light and Magic gets into the game and stuff. But there's very few companies that can deal with how long that this takes. Like the man hours and man labor that actually needs to go into some of this.
Absolutely.
For instance, Avatar was done mostly by Weta.
Yep, absolutely. Way of Water, all the underwater work was done by Weta. So the CGI work is where this film gets its sole Oscar nom, but loses to Martin Scorsese's Hugo, which even at this point in the trilogy, its least sophisticated point, we'll call it, is a bit of a snub, in my opinion, just because I feel like this has the advantage of being a little bit groundbreaking as far as coming out. You'll see maybe some flaws watching it in modern day, folks, of the frame around the monkeys on screen, like cars, or even there's a very noticeable like deer that just looks like so drastically like less less developed than like what we see with the monkeys. But I feel like there's a story of Oscar snubs in VFX department for all 3 of these films, honestly. Yeah. And even though competition grows steeper and steeper for each of the trilogy, this one especially, I just feel like they probably could have given it to him. So overall, though, folks, I feel that this movie was a lot of waiting around to get nowhere, or at least get nowhere exciting for me. I'm falling very lukewarm on this whole franchise, but I can tell you confidently that even if you're curious about some of these sequels, especially with their high critical praise, this one particularly could probably be a skip. There's not too much uncovered that you really need to know the homework for it. With that said, we're going to go ahead and give Rise of the Planet of the Apes 2011 a 52.
A 52%. And honestly, I'm pretty much right there with you. Yeah. I really did not like this movie all that much. The human elements, I did not like James Franco.
Yep.
It's
a shame how it boils down to story reasons, All the technical marvels of these films, they're great.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, that center's got to be there.
Yeah, character development, plot, not there. Writing, not there. I mean, really not. What's his face? Why can't I think of his name?
Oh, Inchworm?
Yes, Inchworm.
Lithgow.
Yes. Not Jonathan Lithgow.
No, it's John Lithgow.
Okay, yeah. I was laughing the entire time because I was like, oh, he's suffering from dementia.
Yes, or Alzheimer's, yeah.
Right. And I was laughing thinking, oh man, Christopher Nolan should have had him like this character in Interstellar. Whole new different character in Interstellar. Really changes the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Acting like a buffoon.
Yeah.
52%. It really is. It's a coin toss. I can't even call it popcorn because I don't even think that's good. Like a popcorn film. It is.
It's almost just homework on its own. That's it. And then it's like, I think it is definitely still on the positive side. I mean, not that a 52 is a stellar score.
Right.
But it is not, I wouldn't describe it as a bad movie because these technical elements are still appreciation I have for the film.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because, it's inoffensive. But for that reason, not very good. This is totally, if you happen to still have cable and it's on, you'll probably just keep it on and fold laundry
That's
to
a
it.
good call.
It really is.
Yeah, we haven't called out a FX or a TNT movie, but this really is that. Yeah, that's right on it.
Okay, so let's take a jump. I mean, you had already... Okay, so you let the goat out a little bit, saying you're maybe not the biggest fan of this trilogy.
Right.
I think I'm a little bit more positive overall.
Okay.
Because of my boy Matt Reeves. So that was 2011. We're jumping 3 years in advance to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. We have a new director for the next two films, who is Matt Reeves. I don't think he's a household name. I don't know if he ever will be. But he's creeping up on our list as a pretty damn good director.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt Reeves directed The Batman, which Vin and I were huge fans of. Got the Golden Laces Award on the First Time Dailies.
Yep.
And
Good call out.
I think he's able to go, I don't want to say edgy and dark, but he is able to earn that PG-13 rating a little bit more that I thought was lacking from the first one.
That's a great call, too, because I wasn't even thinking about the ratings of this, but that's a great call as far as like the violence that's explored in these second two
I mean, the Franco one was so soft.
It really was.
I mean, it was almost PG borderline.
It really was.
That's the thing. This one, we're getting into more adultish theming, kind of, and a little bit more grit to it as well. Like I said, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, let's get into it a little bit, set it up for us, and we'll go back and forth.
Sure. So, I mean, on top of that director swap aspect, the one thing I want to highlight is that, Matt Reeves, the fact that he's taking over this entry and the conclusion of the reboot trilogy, it's just a bit of a shame that he's only brought in as a director here. Reeves goes on to write and direct the next film, which really shows the lack of concept and vision in that last film. Here, once again, for me, the story just didn't really work. Somewhere between circling the drain on low-hanging concepts, especially how predictable things unfold, that even like an ape brain might be able to pick it up. Like, it just felt so like you watch a 15-minute chunk of any chunk of this movie and you get it. You get, what is actually being put down and how it's going to unfold,
But isn't that just PG-13 blockbusters now?
Sure, that's a fair point.
I mean, I will say, this is basically the same writing team as the first one.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we're talking about the likes of, these people did Way of Water, Avatar, they did a Jurassic World one of the
No
newest
wonder
with
I
Chris
don't
Pratt.
like it.
But I will say, it's nominally better than the first one.
Yeah.
And I think character development is better. I think the plot is more engaging.
Okay.
I think as far as characters that I didn't really like anybody in the first one. This one, I think there's one character that's just going way too far, and he needs to chill out. And it's just like, boy, this guy took over acting classes. Even with our B-list or bargain bin actors, as you would say.
Yeah.
As I would say too. More is being accomplished with them.
Sure. Gary
Would you
Oldman
agree?
is Lise.
Well, Gary Oldman is doing his best James Gordon.
Yes.
But I said James Gordon light, basically.
Yeah, for real. He gets that one good crying scene in this, and it's just like, okay, he got his check.
Definitely phoning it in a little bit.
Yeah,
Disappears from the movie for a long time.
Yep.
Probably on set for maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of his scenes are yelling in a bullhorn.
Yeah, it's so true. Get back! In that, it's Jim Gordon. Absolutely, it's him saying "Get back" in The Dark Knight. Shit. But in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, or DPA, science pushing too far has created a simian flu, the viral component supercharging apes to newfound intelligence levels, while also killing most humans. Jumping forward 10 years, we see civilization has collapsed, but the apes are on the rise in an overgrown post-apocalypse. Caesar's kingdom may be primitive, but nonetheless clashes borders with the remaining quarantine zone of San Francisco. Caesar is also not the only developing mind in the kingdom, including past test subjects that all have their own experiences and ties to their relationship with humans and their hatred of humans. Fragile beginnings prove to be on shaky ground, as we see both sides of the conflict having different opinions on how to deal with their perceived threats. I was excited for this turn in the franchise for one reason, and that was, again, to make Caesar center focus. And to my dismay, I don't feel like that was taken to the furthest extent. Unfortunately, our time is split with a collection of hand-me-down actors from other blockbusters and just a human plot. It's the human plot that I feel is the predictable element here. That's what
yes.
makes it predictable. That it's like, and what do humans do when they're feared, or when they're scared, they gotta lash out, and apes lash out, It's just like, I don't know. I feel like that inclusion, I was really hoping that it'd be only about Caesar's kingdom and like the rise. I mean, the naming convention of all these are really backwards.
I was going to bring it in next movie. Yeah,
because it's definitely not a war in the next movie. So
that's not true.
I don't think it deserves to be called War for Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
It's not enough war. Some of these actors that I'm blah on include Jason Clarke, just not trying. Also, one of the worst
Which
parts.
one is Jason Clarke, the main guy?
He's the main guy, and he's also from Terminator.
Right,
reboots.
that reboot. You don't think he's trying? I didn't love him. I didn't hate him, though. I wasn't, angry at him.
Okay.
I will say that as soon as I saw him, I was like, gee, where'd they get the, what was this guy doing? Same thing with the chick, too. I like the girl. I got
Carrie Russell.
I got into the Americans for a little while.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking they just
She's a JJ plug
yes,
as well.
Yes. I thought that maybe they just should have brought on What's-His-Face from the Americans. That they work together, husband and wife.
Absolutely,
That kind of would have been funny.
Yeah. And then lastly, Gary Oldman, again, our comments are, I think he tries for when he's on set, but just such a minor element. It seems like it's just kind of like tossing it in there. So
He's there so they can put it on the billboard.
And also a bland character as well. That's where the character writing, once again, falling short and being shallow, because it's like...
Yeah, he's a Gordon Light.
Well, he's a Gordon Light, but it's also so predictable, his role of being the militant leader of the humans, trying to contain the threat. You know what I mean? You see 15 minutes of dialogue on any end of this film, and you're like, how it goes.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm coming away kind of positive on this film.
I know you are.
I agree. Everything you're saying about the human element, I agree with.
Yeah.
I think to the amount that it affected me was not as much as you. We're so human focused in the first one.
Yes.
The fact that I think we are really stepping up the time that we're with the apes. And just
sure.
the apes. I mean, the ape dynamic is much stronger and very enjoyable to watch. I love seeing when we're in the ape kingdom. And I like some of the human and ape contact as well. I just think the first one was such a letdown that this one, it's just a nominal difference. It is. It's not nominal, right? It's a noticeable difference.
Noticeable difference. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I feel like for me, it was a disappointing watch, and maybe some of that comes from the critical praise that these next two films get. So a little bit of the shot in the foot, and a perfect example of why I really try to stay away for any angle of listening to other reviews or checking out things on a franchise.
Right.
But I just feel like the story itself, a predictable circle the drain plot that for me kind of felt like a waste of time, especially for where we go with the development of Caesar's kingdom. I feel like once again it's this hurry up and wait mentality or feeling that I get from the first one still. What I hoped with this title being Dawn was less about war and conflict and more of an interesting story about rising power and maybe how Caesar struggles with that power. And by the end, we do get that, but it takes just 3/4 of the movie to do anything, interesting with that premise. And even still, it's just so filled with just cliche that I was just like, again, not necessarily bad, but just predictable is just what I kept on coming around to with this one, where shallow was the previous one.
Okay.
So you bring up a really good point, though, because what do you expect from a PG-13 blockbuster?
I thought it was...
safe is probably the word.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make this comment now. I made this to you over dinner over the weekend.
Yeah.
Where I got done with the third film, and the music's playing. We got Michael Giacchino now.
Right.
Giacchino doing the music.
Yep.
Which is great. And
also shows that he's tied at the hip with Matt Reeves.
Oh, yeah, and they're in the whole J.J. Abrams.
Yep.
Because Matt Reeves and J.J. worked on a show early in the day.
And Cloverfield. That's the main
right,
connection.
Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, the third movie wraps up, and I'm listening to the music as the credits roll, and I'm thinking I'm coming away kind of positive with these two films, not the first one, and something about it kind of clicked in my head, and it was the character of Caesar in these movies. I was more invested and emotionally connected to more than any single MCU character or movie. And with how many characters we have in MCU and with how many movies we have in general, I think this at least is impressive because they're all big blockbuster, big budget, big CGI movies.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I definitely
in the same sandbox. I think that's a fair comparison to it.
Yes. And I think walking into the second one where we're introduced to a lot more apes. I mean, we got a lot more apes on screen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we're in the Empire a little bit and the power structure of this new, kingdom, technically, I'm finally getting emotionally invested into Caesar. Now it's first one, it's not there at all.
Yeah.
Second one is really actually when it starts to happen, and there's some deeper beats, and I don't know. I thought
him kind of struggling with morals, how to govern. You know, what I mean, that's definitely there.
Rendered into his family, right?
Yeah.
He has people that have his back, people that don't have his back. It's I like it. I thought there was something there that kept me invested.
Sure.
And I think that's a lot to say for a CGI animal film.
Yeah.
It's a tough bar.
It's a tough part. Well, I feel like that's the fear that's behind the studio notes of making sure that there's always some human character.
Right.
Because they think we can't relate to just apes. But I feel like the tech is good enough, and the performance work that Circus is doing bridges that gap.
I agree. And let's talk about the tech. If you want to talk about the tech now,
we can go into that. I mean,
okay.
unless you're done with any kind of story beats.
Oh, do you got more? I mean, no.
No, I don't really. But it's just kind of one of those.
I mean, we will say this one should have been called War for the Planet of the
Apes. Yes, absolutely. The naming convention is just all over the place.
I mean, compared to the first one and the third one, there's a lot more. There was a lot of action.
Yeah,
a lot more action this one, and a lot more apes. And I don't think it hits like crazy, but some of the action is not bad.
Yeah.
And it looks surprisingly good.
Yeah,
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? I was surprised with how many apes are on screen. There's a lot going on. We're riding on the horsebacks now.
Yeah.
We're in a lot of different settings, whether it be in street and buildings, where I'm like, we're going places here. Matt Reeves is doing some serious cinematography, at least on his head, or storyboarding of where we need to go in the story for kind of this massive war that we have.
And even like the concept work behind the post-apocalyptia, like of San Francisco, overgrown San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, I think by what was this, 2014?
Yeah,
right?
2014. 10 years.
I think that's pretty good work for 2014, considering like Last of Us probably just came out as a video game and whatnot. That type of aesthetic of like overgrown apocalypse, I think, really is a good match for this movie. So.
I'm running wild with this one. I hope it's okay.
No, it's great.
I wanted to maybe implement a new scale for us.
Okay.
A new CGI scale.
Ooh.
And I thought about this when I was writing my notes for this one.
Ooh.
So I think that we should start rating CGI on this scale of vinyl. So when you go to buy a vinyl, for instance, I think this movie is a VG or VG plus, which is very good.
All right.
Or better than very good.
Sure.
And to me, and basically, when you buy a vinyl that is in very good condition, you might have some minor wear and tear on the outer cover.
But fully playable.
You have some minor defects, clearly defects that you can see, light scratches on the vinyl itself, but it plays great.
Yeah.
And I think that's this.
Yeah.
You can it's showing its age a little bit, but the movie works totally fine. This plays great.
Yeah.
So I think, just saying, so like before, I think we're on a G. We're on a good for the first one.
Right, not mint.
And
Definitely not mint.
It goes good, very good plus, near mint,
and then mint. Yeah. I like that.
For CGI.
Yeah.
I think it works great for CGI.
We're going to have too many stickers for the website.
This is not a sticker. This would just be. But because how do you convey? I don't know. I was thinking about it, and I was like, how would I could just convey this? Oh, it was good. It was bad. It was okay.
I like it because it is kind of about how it sells. You know what I mean? How does it come off when you're watching it?
Good. I can stop sweating over here. I've been wanting to pitch it to you. When I thought of it, I thought it was just like, oh, here we go. Episode 134, new age of the podcast, baby. The vinyl scale.
the
for
vinyl
CGI.
That's great. Well, I think luckily the CGI, around the effects of the apes, is really better than ever, and really only outdone by the next entry. I think this was truly excellent looking as far as the film as a whole, and even though a lot of it benefits off of a muddy blue color scheme, it's still just like is such a technical leap and really holds up in a way that, to your comparison, Tom, the Marvel sandbox absolutely doesn't even hold a candle to.
Yeah.
Look no further than any scene with Caesar and Koba clashing, and you will see how this also reaches beyond just simply animation. The tech really allows for the performance to shine underneath everything that's going on digitally. And let me say, Koba is no doubt the best thing this movie has going for it, being a fun, chaotic force on screen, and who doesn't love seeing an ape wielding a machine gun like a big machine gun, on a horseback. So I really like those aspects, and I feel like those moments were also a good example of what I mean by, like, when it's only a few apes on screen, it seems like their detail goes up, or at least they're having more to do.
Which I think makes sense,
Yeah.
honestly, because you could be more focused with that completely.
Yeah, whether it's the micro animations or just little flourishes like breath and shit like that.
Always looking at the hair follicles.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, also, on that note with Koba, shout out to actor Toby Cabell for his motion capture work of this character. And I say it only because I'm curious, because Circus is obviously your boy. I feel like he kind of stole the show sometimes. He's over animating, especially in his mouth movements. He's very almost like a Somalian pirate. He feels like
nice. Yeah. I'm the captain now. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like Captain Phillips. I don't know. I feel like he was a show stealer.
And I think a lot of the main apes, because maybe there's basically 3 really main apes that we're dealing with. I think all were very good. Kudos to Andy Serkis, who is crushing it, and really he is now leading an entire crew of CGI ape actors.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It is a full bore, like, it is the mocap and the capturing going on is very impressive.
Yep.
And absolutely, the other actors are crushing it because it's very physical too. I mean, it's impressive what they really are acting as apes, and then it's incredible how you even get some of the actual actors' facial expressions or facial structure on the apes themselves then, too, that come across screen.
Yep.
But absolutely, to the main ape actors, kudos.
Yeah. And also, that demand, that technical demand, is being increased by what's happening in the story, that more apes are becoming articulate in their movement, in their intelligence. So, last note with CGI is, once again, this does get the Oscar nom, but loses out once again. A much more competitive year, actually, all great entries for what it's worth. I feel like this was a stellar year for visual effects, but Nolan's juggernaut Interstellar was destined to get this win. And actually, fun time that you mentioned Nolan with Lithgow. But
You think it deserves it?
Well, I just feel like Nolan has a mix of exciting concepts in Interstellar. Like the robot was like, it's just like this blocky,
That did look good.
Yeah. The space effects. I don't know. It's a very competitive year. If you look back on this one, the VFX category it's a lot.
It's just hard for this because this is so VFX heavy.
Yeah.
And Interstellar is
It flourishes.
Over 100 apes on screen.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true.
But very impressive.
Yeah, I feel like every entry was good. It's just, I also feel like that may have been, flashback to 2014, 15, who cares with the Oscars, but I feel like that might have been like, not a pity, but something to give to Nolan because he gets snubbed in everything else for Interstellar.
Oh, yeah, well. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, so. But overall, I think this was, again, a complex opinions on this. It's a significant chunk longer with little more to offer than just the amped up monkey mayhem, but the visual effects team absolutely rising to the challenge of that monkey mayhem. I don't want to take anything away from the enjoyment of just seeing more visual eye candy on screen, especially when it is this good. But once again, I feel you could watch any chunk of the story and just flawlessly predict how the entire runtime plays out. And despite how shiny the wrapping paper might be, once again, I'm finding a blandness with the core underneath it. With that said, we're going to go ahead and give Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 2014 a 60 on the dot.
Okay, 60, which is small step improvement.
But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I liked, like I said, I kind of liked this film. I wasn't in love with it. I didn't walk away being unbelievably impressed with anything with the humans, but I liked the fact that I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Because the bar is so low from the first one. Maybe it's unfair to approach it that way.
No, I think that's realistic.
You said, if people want to get into this trilogy a bit, maybe just drop the first one.
Yeah.
Or watch the last 10 minutes of the first one
right.
and jump right into these. But props to Matt Reeves for making me actually care about this story. I ended up caring about the main character a lot, and I enjoyed where the story goes, where I was actually invested to watch. I didn't want to go on my phone.
You weren't dozing off.
For sure. Didn't want to jump on my laptop and just check the news while it was on. You know what I mean? I was engaged with it.
Sure.
And that's saying something.
Yeah.
And for that, this gets 2 shoes.
2 shoes!
And a positive 2 shoes.
Yeah.
Not a shine, but 2 shoes.
Hey, that's great.
So a little bit
That's
higher
great.
than your 60%, basically.
Yeah.
As everybody knows the scale.
As everyone's well-read on the Tommy Two Shoes scale.
And if there's anything, basically, what I can say about it, coming off of it too, or just overall take is, I can see myself watching it again in the future.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It surprised me.
Yeah. I think that's in line with a lot of the critical reception of this film. I mean, this is the turning point. I mean, people call these next 2 films, this and the next one, the best of the whole franchise.
Yeah, it was very funny. We were looking forward to these because we knew how well praised they were.
Yeah.
I watched the first one, a little bit of the second one. Vin texted me, folks, and he was just like, "Hey, you don't have to bother watching them. I don't think these are going to be very good." And I kind of agreed. I said, in hindsight, we probably should have known that a CGI monkey movie is not going to be good.
It's not going to be like
but
amazing.
it turned around on me, and I ended up being invested in 2 and 3, which I liked. But to the praise that this guy, I'm surprised how much people like
really
these, the critical
too.
response to these.
I really am,
I don't
too.
quite see where it comes from, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, I feel like we're able to juggle both hats of like, hey, this is a technical marvel, I mean, this is really something to pay attention to for the filmmaking of it, but at the same time is just a blockbuster. So I feel like, hopefully we're illustrating that these are by no means falling, south of 50 bad movie territory. These are still just like good movies, and worth, checking out in the sense that whether you have that film appreciation aspect or you just want to see some apes.
And if you want to see some apes, go to these.
Yes.
Don't go to a King Kong movie. Or some of the latest ones. Kong Skull Island. Such,
I love
these
that.
things.
You really. I think we need a solo episode. I'm gonna go on vacation, and you're gonna do
talking to myself.
Kong Skull Island, just bitching about it.
It's called me in my van driving around.
It's just on a voice note. It's on the phone.
Complaining about Brie Larson. Okay, so that was we're in 3-year intervals here. So 2011, 2014. We are now in 2017. This is called War for the Planet of the Apes. Again, that first one was 1 hour and 45. The second one was 2 hours and 10 minutes, and this one is 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're back with our director, Matt Reeves. Right off the bat, as much as I can't stand the naming for these, even the fact that Rise and Dawn can be used over changed, even in just like normal language.
Technically, all of them.
We start out, and Matt Reeves, I feel like, knows it.
Yes.
Because with this trilogy and with dealing with a big studio film like this, big studio blockbuster, I have to imagine his hands are tied a little bit.
Yep.
So right off the bat, he kind of runs down why they're named this to give it some sort of justification.
yes, with the opening text. Yep, that's
and
a
I
good
kind
catch.
of just like, thank you for that, because I feel like you feel it, Matt.
Right. He felt the pressure for this.
Anyway, we're back with Caesar. It's War for the Planet of the Apes. Vin, set up this story a little bit. Let's take it back and forth.
Well, what I'll open with is, again, this is supposedly the best of the franchise, highest reviews of the whole damn series, including the old ones. I mean, not that they're holed up, but like the original is obviously a classic that is revered.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from an 82 on Metacritic to near perfect scores everywhere else. So, I was interested to see where this is, and I'm happy to say that while my scores don't line up with the huge amount of praise, it does line up with the movements that we are getting better with the trilogy.
Right.
We're ramping. For my money, it must have been that 20th Century Fox logo playing with bongos, which, how is that not done for every entry in this franchise? I mean, that's just disappointing. We're finally getting into it, folks. We are finally getting a story that I felt was worth the spectacular CGI put behind it or wrapped around it. This premise of war was finally an interesting angle enough to grab my attention personally after some apathy with the series. Most because it addresses some stupidity of the first two. I get it. The first one, they didn't know what they were dealing with. The second one, it was the apocalypse. But finally, the human angle feels like it's touching on new, exciting ground. That the humans aren't just frozen for when we need them on screen. That there's things happening in the human side of this element, as well as the ape side. Our very first scene is a great introduction and kind of a shock to our understanding of this world. And concepts all over the story, I feel, have the sparks of creativity that actually makes it worth dusting off this decrepit franchise from the 60s. More than anything, I want to fully credit the shift of Matt Reeves being able to write as well. Like I said in the last review, I can't tell you how badly I would want to go back in time and give him writing, directing on the whole trilogy. And just see what he would do with it.
It would be better.
Clearly, this is a match of vision and creativity and concepts in a way that the previous two just didn't really have. I guess shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I mean, in War for the Planet of the Apes, WPA, or Wi-Fi Protected Access. I was trying to actually come up with what was the title, and I was like, no, I gotta drop this. This is a tangent in the summary, which is bad. The territorial conflict is kicked into full gear as the remaining human forces attempt to capture Caesar in a desperate attempt to break the ape kingdom. This forces Caesar's monkey hand to hunt down his enemy. That structures the film less as a all-out war and more as kind of a revenge chase mixed with a prison break plot once again. This is where, say what you want about the titles. I feel like it is important to note that it's just like, it even starts out kind of as like flirting this all-out war.
Yeah.
It doesn't go there. So maybe just like tamper expectations when it comes to that. We were talking about it over the weekend, Tom, but really this structures itself more like a Great Escape, Papillon, these early kind of prison break films.
It really is too. Yeah, it really is a chasing movie, a searching movie, and then prison break film. Yeah,
absolutely. Which, tough to say, not to go on a tangent too early, tough to say which side of that works better. I don't know. Which side do you think worked better, when he was on the hunt or when we finally kind of get in the camp?
So I'm very mixed on this movie.
Okay.
And it's tough for me. There's elements that I like definitely more than the second one. Mm-hmm. And then there's some elements where I'm kind of not hot on at all compared to the second one. I would say the first third of the movie is my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Act one of this film
Sure.
Is absolutely my favorite.
Yeah.
And I won't say maybe it goes downhill from there.
Definitely a little bit more of a drag later on.
Yeah, and I liked how you even preface it and let everybody know, especially where we leave off of 2, and the fact that this has war in the title. Be prepared. It is kind of a simpler, quieter film.
Yeah.
We definitely do more world expansion, and we get into, like you said, themes, and there's things going on in this world, and different factions, even between humans and apes and things like that.
Yeah.
That's great to see, and at the same time, the film kind of seems small.
Yeah.
And a very simple, basic story. So when we are straight in that prison break story...
It's very directly about Caesar and like his attempts.
And this is not... is this the return of the king? Is this the slam bam finish that we really want?
Interesting.
Or is this more like a movie number 2? This is like season 3 of Lost, where Kate and Sawyer are just stuck in freaking the cages forever, essentially, and that's half the season.
Right.
This is smaller and quieter.
Sure.
And I just don't think that's warranted necessarily for a third film.
Wow,
Interesting. Of the franchise.
I love that position because I could definitely see 100% this being the second film in the franchise, and then maybe the third in a conceptual, Return of the King type of setup that Caesar comes back to his people, and then this is the fuel for the real war.
Right, exactly.
Actually earning the title, But
advanced elements in this, more adult themes in this.
Yep.
That I like. I really like I said, the first third. I think it's much better. I think it looks better, and it hits for a lot of those reasons. Where the story, even the writing's better, but where the story goes can be a little bit of a okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we're doing at the ranch kind of stuff.
Sure.
But we are following a main crew, and we kind of get ourselves along, and we get into trouble or find things, and that, you know what I mean?
I think that's why I even was curious about the split of this, because I'm with you. I think the chase in the beginning feels electric, and then once we get into the kind of the prison setup, like the first film, honestly, where the second half is this prison escape aspect. Yeah. That's where I was like, I like what's going on here. I just don't think it's as strong. So I was curious where you would go.
Yeah, not as electric. First 15 minutes, I love.
Yeah, including that very first scene. I thought it was an excellent first scene.
Pretty good. And that's where I'm watching this. I'm going, this is Matt Reeves.
Yep.
And I think in the hands of a lesser director, we would have something much more generic.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The ape apocalypse has no end in sight, though, as throughout this journey we see the simian flu of the virus in the last film, and what gave the apes their intelligence has mutated once again now, regressing humanity backwards to their primal roots and much more docile roots. And if this trilogy has anything to say about humanity's reaction to change, it is that fear will rule the day. Finally, Caesar is, I think, our true full effect main character.
Yeah.
With the story laying down some reflection on what the war has brought about for his people, which I thought was a little bit more than the shallow critiques that I've been talking about. And Andy Serkis, once again, his performance is able to thrive on two fronts now. In addition to the even more technical advancements, the sophistication of Caesar's mind allows for more drama to brew, more reflection. It's the moments where he's in the cage, and it's different than the first film because he's processing atrocity. He's processing complex things in front of his eyes.
And for the first time, it's not necessarily a direct threat to him. Even in instances, it's how am I going to manage these threats going after each other? And I'm stuck in the middle of it.
Sure,
and the leader of these other apes.
Kind of a guerrilla strategy, yeah.
Right. It definitely adds a complexity to it. I like it.
Yeah. While I enjoyed this entry shaking some of that shallow plot criticism, I feel like the best thing the script does is set up a clear-cut rivalry, doing wonders to streamline what the stakes are here. Woody Harrelson plays the villainous colonel representing the last of human forces, named simply the Colonel. So that's about as cartoony as he is.
Yeah.
And while he might be a little too very cartoonish in how evil he is, once again, it streamlines aspects of the story. I feel like it was a useful simplification to then give the dramatic spotlight to Caesar. You know what I mean?
I like that.
He wasn't just another human plot. He was just very clearly the villain, and we didn't need to worry about him at all. He's just doing villainous things,
And I like that take, and I like the utilization. Like, the writing for Woody Harrelson, I liked. And what that guy needed to do, everything you just said, I agree.
Yeah.
I just think we needed another guy in the spot.
Oh, not Woody.
I freaking love Woody Harrelson.
Sure.
Who doesn't like Woody Harrelson?
Yeah.
He's very good in certain things. He made this too cartoonish. I needed an Apocalypse Now Marlon Brando. It's Brando, right?
Yeah.
I needed the Apocalypse Now Marlon Brando.
Driven mad.
Yes, not a Looney Tunes Apocalypse Now Marlon Brando.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to give it away, but there's a line that when Woody is explaining his motivation, it's just really dude, even the monkey in the room says how that's wrong. You're not that crazy.
It took me away from it because we're dealing with this is the most serious one of the three.
Yes, absolutely.
Not that the second one doesn't have serious plots, but it is. It is the most adult. It is the most PG-13.
It's trying to be gritty,
ways,
absolutely.
And that's the thing. The theming is there, and then you have Woody Harrelson. I don't know. I don't know who would be better, but a lot of guys would be better.
Yeah.
Were you workshopping ideas, or you like him?
I don't. I think he just. I saw him on screen, and I knew what the character was going to be. And I was like, okay, good. I almost don't have to worry about it. I just was really tuning into wow, they're really making him campy.
Yeah. All right.
Super villainous, but
it bothered me.
I mean, you got. What's your workshop?
It took me out of it. Honestly, I couldn't come up with really anybody. I'm thinking. I mean, there's that one point where he's in his getup, his gear towards the beginning of the film, and he's doing the
camoed
rope.
up.
Yeah. And it's just the most unbuyable thing. Again, it's taking something very serious theming.
Sure, a
serious
scene.
And it's Woody Harrelson is just walking around and probably just smoked a joint.
Yeah, for real.
I don't honestly have no idea who would be better, but definitely people.
I definitely get those vibes in the prison camp as well because it is it's kind of like a Vietnam type of feel to it. So
Bruce Willis would have done a better job. Bruce Willis would have done better at this role.
Ooh, that's it. In 2017, he's still good.
Because the way Woody Harrelson talks, this is why he is great in the character No Country for Old Men. Because there's a goofiness to him.
Sure,
Just the way he speaks.
Absolutely.
His character in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yep.
Same deal. There is a goofy, the lightheartedness to
Absolutely.
this guy.
Where this we needed cold cut, he's hard as nails.
Yes.
Yeah, and driven crazy.
Correct. Yeah. Anyway, took me out a little bit, but you're right. He had elements that were fine.
Yeah, and really, I'm not really defending the acting too much. It's more so I just liked how it was simplified, the role of the character. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then let just it always be on Caesar. Almost never do we break from Caesar.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to fight you on that.
You know, yeah.
I'm totally invested in Caesar now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just what I was craving for the whole thing. You know what I mean? It's his trilogy, and also a little bit of bias for Andy Serkis.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm barely 30 minutes into this film, and I'm like, damn, why is this music so good? And what do you know? It's Michael Giacchino. To be fair, he's fully part of the last film, like we commented on.
I caught him on the second one.
You did. I did not. But here, it just felt like he was trying to capture some of those retro dramatic flares of the original films done by the great Jerry Goldsmith. Also, Jerry Goldsmith doing all the work on Star Trek as well. So really, really fun, iconic sci-fi soundtracks. The music track "Assault on Earth" being an excellent example of these retro touches that pepper the whole soundtrack. That feels like the old Planet of the Apes, honestly, to me. "Assault the Earth" is the one where it's the waterfall scene that we
yes.
both
Okay,
kind of keyed
yeah.
into, and that first 15 minets, it's electric.
Anyone who is fans of Lost knows Giacchino.
Yes.
Because Giacchino? Okay. And what separates him, he does the Batman.
Yes.
Totally goes a different route.
Absolutely.
But his piano beats, he always loves when there's a dramatic scene or a sad scene. He comes in with the classic piano stuff. Yeah. It is in Lost. It is in Mission Impossible 3.
Oh, you're right.
And as soon as something happens in the second film, I'm going, I don't know exactly who this is. I'm on my phone immediately, and I'm going, yep. And I love it. I'm totally in, by the way.
Yeah.
I just keep on doing the same thing. It's what helps with the emotion of the film. He sticks with it.
Yeah. The Star Trek reboot as well. Same thing, that piano.
Oh, my God.
So that's his trademark. We'll have to do composers soon enough. I would say CGI is better than ever. Many shots having just so many flourishes, from breath visible to hair movement. This winter prison environment has snow used to great effect, selling us on kind of the lethality of the setting, beyond just like a feelingless CGI set.
Yeah.
I say this as a great compliment. There were many moments that I fully questioned if it was the monkeys were real, practical effects, or anything but CGI.
That's crazy, Vince.
There was a lot. He's not letting me have that comment. That's crazy.
But that is amazing.
Yeah. 2017.
This is 2 years before Endgame.
It was. Which
is trash, by the way, looking. Anyway.
You're beating up on Marvel too much. We're gonna get hate mail on that. I think it was the gorillas specifically, where it's just like their skin.
Gorillas look pretty good.
Like, did they do like just a practical puppet in it, maybe with some CGI touch-ups?
Nope.
It's all CGI though.
I'll tell you who really looks impressive, and the character we haven't brought up yet. Caesar has a right-hand man, someone that was very kind to him, and they grown a great friendship since the first film, middle of the first film, basically. And this is Maurice, and he's playing not an ape or a
gorilla.
He's not playing a chimp or a gorilla. He is playing
orangutan, I think.
Is it orangutan? He seems
it's
too
not
big
bamboo
for orangutan.
or baboon.
I think is it orangutan? I thought orangutan is
because he's the one from he's the one.
Ooby Doo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like you.
I was waiting for the Jungle Book reference.
I don't know, but
I
don't know if that's an orangutan or a different kind of orangutan. Regardless,
yes.
Maurice is very clearly a single type of animal, a monkey.
Yes.
To be Caesar's right-hand man through and through all the way. His face looks incredible.
It really does.
It looks incredible.
The texture of the skin, the bumps.
Truly impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, VG Plus or near mint is what I have this CGI
absolutely. I 100% agree. When it comes to recognition, however, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Joe and team get the Oscar nom for the last time, but lose out to the must-watch Blade Runner 2049. But hey, keep your chin up, team. The new film will probably get the rematch this year and lose out once again to Denny's Dune 2. I love Blade Runner 2049. Again, kind of like the first one. It was just like, man, I kind of just feel bad because there's clearly like countless individuals pouring their heart and soul, whether or otherwise, going into this.
I almost feel like they're two different categories.
What do you mean?
I just think
those two films.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree.
But
this is just like, I don't know. It's not that the nominations or who wins. I mean, in all honesty, it really doesn't matter. But I just feel like there's some serious passion going into this in the actual digital artistry of it, and no less the motion capture angle that we've now beat to death with Circus, but. I don't know. It's something to note because it does feel a little bittersweet, especially looking at just like all the technical advancements of these last two films. So
I'll tell you what, if it had a kind of a bigger story to it, if it had a Return of the King story, probably would have won.
Yeah. Who knows? Beat out Harrison Ford punching Ryan Gosling in the face. Folks, I will admit that my personal taste has gotten in the way of a little bit of enjoyment of these two films, of the last two films, that is. But what I expected to be a fun, concept-rich introduction to the world had priorities on telling a much more gritty and semi-realistic version of the story. This movie, without a doubt, is able to hold to that tone, but finally is able to have some fun with its genre stylings and proximity to what we know will be the outcome. I may not love this movie as much as the universal praise it's received. I mean, like really, really high universal praise, but I can tell you it was the only one this week that I felt was truly worth your time checking out and maybe just being on the hook for the entire franchise because of that. We're going to go ahead and give War for Planet of the Apes 2017 a 72.
72, pretty good score, Ben.
Yeah.
And we are ticking up there, like you said.
Yeah, I think I agree with the overall movement of it, but I'm curious to hear what you said because it seems like 2's the favorite.
Well, I think in a lot of ways 2's is, or in some ways 2 is better, in my opinion, and then in some ways 3 is better. And it's, I like some characters, I dislike some characters in both films. I don't know, there is a girl aspect in this one. I can't even tell, still sitting here now, if I liked it or didn't like it. I don't know if I like Steve Zahn. It's so heavily used as we introduce a new monkey in this.
Yeah.
Same deal. It's I like it and don't. The story is great and really hits. Like I said, I love the first third. And then the movie ends, and I am blown away by some pyrotechnics. Or, I don't know if those are real or
really
again,
crazy pyrotechnics.
Incredible CGI pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
Truly blown away in that aspect. And I'm touched in ways. I am emotionally connected or invested in Caesar. And that only hardens the more I watch this film.
Sure.
And it's impressive. Again, I can see myself watching this again, even though I will be rolling my eyes at Woody Harrelson.
I love that. Do you think it just comes down to the second one being more exciting of an experience? Which I would agree with. It's definitely less of a downer. It's kind of like let's go monkeys.
I don't know what the answer is.
Sure.
I almost like that. I mean, these three films are very different films as far as plot structure and where we're going.
Yeah.
Goals.
Also, another reason why Reeves should have just had the trilogy. It's kind of amazing how directionless each one feels,
right.
In ways.
So that's the way. Visually, absolutely the best. Knocks it out of the park. This is better than films coming out now in a lot of ways. I mean, you think The Flash came out in 2023, I think? I mean,
my God.
It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd how good this film looks.
Yep.
Now going 7 years ago.
Yep.
So I didn't know where to put it. In ways it's better, in ways it's not than 2. I will say, even though the story is contained, the fact that we're breaking open that world a little bit more, and we have more... there's, like as you said, there's just more going on in the world that we're aware of as a viewer, which is
we're
cool.
open to it.
And the way it ends, I love. I mean, again, it first third gets me, and the last probably 10 or 20 gets me. And I love it, and the visuals are all there. So for that reason, it's really similar to the second one for me. I give it 2 shoes. These are very positive 2 shoes, but to put a shine on that is really special. Well, it is. It's getting close to a pretty high level. This film gets 2 shoes easy, though.
Okay, good.
And it honestly surprises me. I didn't go into these thinking any shoes were going to be given.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think also a great metric is that you're kind of open to a rewatch with both of these, which
and
what
only
good
these
is a...
two. Yeah.
Right. But like what purpose is a blockbuster besides like rewatch, catching it on TV or something like that?
And it's because even as 30 years old now, there were beats that made this adult. And I couldn't I was almost shocked by it. It made me even appreciate Matt Reeves even more.
Yep.
He made me care about this. And in no way did I go into this thinking I was going to give two shits about this.
Yeah, yep.
And sure enough, I gave two shoes. So, all right. All right, so with that, we will go into our producer segment. Vin, because we do have a producer for today. We have an old producer coming back. This is Isaac Garcia coming in.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, with a Space Odyssey donation. So 2001 pennies, or $20.01.
You love explaining that.
So Isaac writes, he goes, ITM, gents. In the morning to you, Isaac.
Okay.
It's been a while since I last donated, but I've still been listening. Still love what you guys are doing here and appreciate it very much.
That's great.
The Alex Garland deep dive was great, and Vin's positive take on Civil War put me over the edge to go and watch it.
That's fantastic.
I was definitely on the fence. Your recent focus on No Country for Old Men was outstanding. Many thanks. I'm a big fan of the book, and one thing that I liked about the movie was how faithful it was to the book. Lastly, a big fan, as big of a fan of Alex Garland that Vin is, I am too. You have to watch Devs. All caps. You don't have to review it, but you have to watch Devs. As a miniseries, you can bask in Alex Garland, taking his time with every shot, every music selection, every bit of dialogue. And in my opinion, it's right there with Ex Machina.
Wow.
You have to watch it.
Wow. You know, producer Matt D, always in my ear about watching Devs as well.
Really?
It has been on the top of my list. I just haven't tackled the list at all. But that's great to hear that so much of his vision kind of comes through in a miniseries, no less. But
I think it's something that you should just, if you have time, I don't know if you ever have time.
Yeah.
But go
I
for it.
do, but, you know. I like the idea of maybe not reviewing it because, you know, it certainly take the job element out of it.
No, I wouldn't review it. You shouldn't review it. We'll take the job out, but that's just not us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And when it is, we're ripping a
Oh,
tab.
that is a Band-Aid. Yeah,
that's a Band-Aid. Isaac, though, that's so wonderful to hear. Also, thanks for the praise on those two big episodes. The Alex Garland episode in specific, I'm really proud of that one. So I'm glad to hear that I was actually able to, you know, do my job and maybe sway some opinions.
That's pretty cool. I mean, honestly, I'm in the same boat as Isaac as far as you pushed me over the edge on Civil War as well.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I think it is a movie watch. I don't think I'm going to go to the movies. I think I will kind of wait for
sure, like a streaming, right.
But
it's just about it's putting time for it whenever you have that time with
but
it.
like Isaac said, he goes, I was definitely on the fence.
Yeah.
And I was the same. I mean, I said it on the episode, basically.
Yeah.
By the way,
even talking to people this weekend, there were certain people that we were talking with, and they were just like, yeah, I'm just never going to watch that movie.
Right.
And it's just like, listen to the review.
But he says, and by the way, I don't think I've ever really have talked to somebody who read the initial book of No Country for Old Men. So that's great to hear also that the Coen brothers do a great job from text to screen.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And he says, P.S., by the way, I can't believe Vin didn't like the dance scene in Ex Machina. Which that's really surprised me too, because it's like
I guess,
I love that.
I guess
30 seconds of movie making.
Yeah, I made myself a little bit of a target with that.
Isaac, thank you so much for producing, man. You are producer or executive producer for episode 134. And he says in the beginning, he goes, it's been a while since I last donated. No worries.
Yes, no worries.
I mean, last year we really had a decent amount of donations for how early we were still on the show. It's a little dry this year, but I think it's basically because we're laying the seeds of value for value. And the more people catch on, and by the way, the more podcasts that do it, because more and more podcasts are doing it,
Sure.
It'll become more of a... It's
well-known.
Not as unique. So Isaac, you getting it and still continue to produce for us is unbelievable. We thank you so much for still listening and enjoying these episodes. You're clearly engaged, and it just means the world to us, really.
Yeah,
so.
and it means the world to hear that. You know, a review made a difference with that, you know? So, I'm not just talking to the void of the internet.
I'm glad you liked the special, too, the No Country special, because it's the first time we did that style.
Yeah, and you know, definitely a lot of nerves just tackling a film in the 90s, you know, so.
Right. So, okay, folks, so if you want to be a producer like Isaac is here, the way you become a producer is you donate to the show. You donate to the daily ratings. So just like Isaac did, Space Odyssey donation to $20 or $20.01. You can go to thedailyratings.com and head to the donations tab, and it can be any amount that you want. We do have some set donations, like the Space Odyssey. We have a few others as well. But it's really whatever you're feeling this week, whatever money you have. If you didn't buy that cup of coffee this week or something like that, I don't know. You saved on gas this week, whatever. You
saved on watching a bad movie.
There you go. That too. It's a movie. Is it worth a movie ticket? The point is, we're not going to have paywalls. We're not going to have tier structures, and it's not pay to play here. It's whatever amount of value that you feel that we're providing that you can kind of send our way. And that's kind of called the value for value model. Vin and I will do the podcast every week, all the time that Vin takes to watch the movies and take the notes, and we update the website. All that's pretty time-consuming. Mm-hmm. We do enjoy it, but it takes a lot of time. We put it out there, and is it valuable to you? Are you listening to the podcast? Are you using the website? That's value in your pocket. We ask, can you give us some value back in our pocket? So when you head to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com, you go ahead and donate something our way. You become a legit producer of the Daily Ratings, because just like in Hollywood, when you financially support a project, you become a producer of that thing. So, Isaac, thank you very, very much. And we hope many of you who are enjoying it will go to the website, donate, and when you donate, write in a note just like Isaac did.
Absolutely.
It can be praise all you want.
Yeah, this is one end of the spectrum. I mean, certainly, if you're a fan of these Planet of the Apes films, as many are, let us know what the thematic substance we're missing in these monkey movies.
But your note can be anything. If you're going to financially support us, that's huge, and we want your voice to be heard. It's a through line to you. So they can be praise, but they can be questions. They can be comments. You can even critique us all you want. You're a legit producer. Your feedback is important to us. And you can donate through PayPal, through Venmo, or through, of course, credit cards and stuff like that. It's all in the site for you. So you can find it there at thedailyratings.com. Head to the donations tab. And let's keep things going here, Vin. We have our now in theaters, our newly released. This is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We had mentioned it in the beginning of the episode. I believe we're 300 years in advance.
Right.
So we are really in the same storyline, but really we're doing a reboot. This is a reboot trilogy. Me, this concerns me. I was going to go see this in theaters. I had interest. And then I watched the original three, realized how engaged I was with Caesar, and really lost interest.
Oh, sure. So,
you know what I mean?
Further baggage why they may want to separate from that it's, it's too much of a tide, once again, to these trilogy.
I also kind of think it's shooting itself in the foot, because you have someone like me who's just like, do I want to get emotionally connected to like another ape and have to deal with 3 more films? I'm happy with the Reeves too.
That's what they're fearing.
You know what I mean?
You know, that's why they put a human character in each one of these.
Regardless, 2 hours and 25 minutes. We are dealing with the new director here, Wes Ball, who I don't think we've really covered before.
No.
I'm excited to hear what you think about him, because he's doing a project coming up as well.
Oh, really?
That might have tug at your heartstrings a little bit.
Interesting.
Regardless, let's get into Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. How did you like it? The same writing crew is back, but just
it's so true. I think I have some beef with this writing crew, no matter what. Which, I mean, it's not the lows of Avatar, but if that's where they go, that's certainly my consistencies there, and how I feel about them. You might have seen the news around this film's PR circuit, which is, I feel like a heavy PR circuit, or at least one that's been pushed in my face. But like we talked about, this is flirting further films, sequel bait, and at worst a 9-movie saga on if this is being successful or not. And after watching the film, I can definitely tell you it makes perfect sense of how they would shoot for that. On top of your comments, Tom, this introduces so many characters and illustrates yet another big time jump in the world that you can see how it become as developed as previous films in the franchise. This counts double for them overwriting the original 5 movies from the 70s. This would be kind of trampling on that creative ground. And also striking a new continuity closer than ever to a reboot rather than a prequel. This is, in that gray area of right before the original films. And if they are successful with it, it's probably going to trample over what those original films are about.
So that's how that's working.
At least that's my read on it, and watching this film and seeing what type of sequel bait they're baking into things.
Right.
So the pieces falling into place. Like I said, this comes from director and digital effects artist Wes Ball. His background in VFX paying dividends on how intensive this movie is as far as its CGI demand. This marks his first project after directing all 3 films in the young adult series Maze Runner.
That's right.
Yeah, and
I don't. Okay.
I don't. You're gonna rep Maze Runner?
I don't hear terrible. I've never seen them.
Sure, I haven't.
Yeah, God knows when we get a 4th one, we're gonna have to watch all 3 of them. But from my understanding, when it comes to the teen, teen franchises,
Yeah, sure, young adult
Maze Runner,
series.
Twilight,
Hunger Games,
right?
absolutely.
Other bullcrap. I hear some of them are not bad. And
interesting.
Wes Ball directed all 3 of them.
Yep, it was his baby.
Yeah.
So
it came out, and it was the same deal with these teen movies because you got to keep them while they're teens. So they were like, one came out in 14, I think. One came out in 15. Then oh my gosh.
And also, I feel like in those movies, Divergent is another one that is. It's kind of like third generation in of these young adult franchises. So they're like, we're losing them eventually, so we got to get them out. But kind of on that note, I don't know. Unless my hand is forced, I'm probably not going to check out these films.
I was shocked. I forgot that 3 were even made.
Yeah, exactly. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, or KPA, restructures its story drastically and comes out as a crowd-pleasing hero's journey adventure film. I can't tell you, on top of it trying to feel like it's shaking its connection to the last trilogy that we covered.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's really just gunning for something very tonally different. We see humanity long gone after being intellectually ravaged by the simian flu, so much so that the word human has been replaced. And while the apes are more advanced than ever, their society remains stuck in the roots of civilization, focusing on kind of these hunter-gatherer roles and tradition just beginning to take hold of their way of thinking and their morals. Our main character is the ape Noah, who has to set out on a journey to find his people and open his mind to the greater world. That's where this hero's journey really comes into play. That I don't think Noah is the strongest character, but he's our hero. He's our main dude. That
it's well established.
Yeah. And even just like the arc of what he's going out and the type of challenges he faces, very to the letter hero's journey. So
what is his job? He's like a scout, like he for the kingdom. Or?
This hunter gatherer, their specialization is taming birds, taming like falcons. So yeah. No. But he's an adventurer by nature. So
Okay,
that's our kind of skin in the game.
Right,
Not to be too cynical about this. Along the way, again, this is a journey. He meets many new companions, including a Caesar scholar, Raka, and a sentient human girl named May. They discover a dangerous kingdom led by Proximus Caesar, a despot ruler looking to crack into a vault containing the last of humanity's secrets.
His name is Proximus Caesar.
Yeah, and a real missed opportunity because it's in the OG films, again, just going off of approximate knowledge.
Yeah.
They're all going after Caesar's original teachings. This one, he's obviously named Caesar. It's Caesar because he just found a bunch of history books, and I was like, oh, okay. So there's that. And I'm going to be honest, I do feel a bit hypocritical here, where for most of the franchise, all I wanted was apes to be the center focus and to explore how that society grows. And no doubt we get that story with this film, but nonetheless, I was bored to tears. I was just
It's a long movie, too.
It's so long. Part of this definitely comes from concepts explored being moving backwards and being shallow once again. A great example of this being actually the naming of our bad guy. He's just like, I found these books and they teach me secrets. It's just like, okay. But the larger
it's like
part,
the Lost Jedi. It's like Luke Skywalker watching over the old text.
Right. And a self-inflicted wound because it's like, I don't know. They didn't need to make the time jump so drastic that Caesar is like a mythology. He's like a mythical creature basically.
Before I learned the 300-year time jump, I thought maybe we were picking up with Caesar's kids or something, or grandkids.
Yeah.
That crap.
Which they actually set up in war. Caesar's kid. I mean, they're obviously not going to act on it now, but Caesar's one kid is the name of the main bad guy in the '68 movie. So little Easter eggs.
Yeah, but they're ruined timelines then.
Yeah.
And not only that, Proximus Caesar. So the guy who found the books of the teachings of Caesar.
I'm approximately.
That's lame as hell.
Yeah.
That's bad.
I agree. It's definitely lame. The larger part of this movie, this criticism, is just the movie being way, way too long. This stands as the longest of any of the movies, and most of all, that time is spent setting up sequel baits. To me, I really felt the corporate hand at play. And this was before even hearing about the news of what the studios planned or even how that would shake out. I felt like the corporate manipulation within this film, which was disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe par for the course with Wes Ball, though, because he's a franchise guy.
Apparently,
so
yeah.
He knows. Guess what he's going to do? He's going to build the franchise.
The reason why I am interested to hear about him is I believe he is the leader. He is tasked with doing the upcoming Zelda movie.
No way.
Yes, which is like
wow.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's
You better be careful, basically.
yeah.
Kind of big deal.
I mean, Christ, the Zelda fan base that will get flamed by anything, they will tear it apart. Wow.
So that's why I'm interested, because I do think this guy's going to be being put in some big roles.
Interesting. Okay. Well, if he's positioned to be a hit maker, hopefully the hits come. This one, I don't know. We do lose Andy Serkis in the talent pool, which is definitely a shame. But we're still working with Weta FX and hitting the ground running on more technical advancements, both for technical and plot reasons, like we've kind of commented on throughout the film. Nearly every monkey has the sophistication of Caesar. This means even your average ape soldier needs to articulate like a human if they need to. No less the demanding performance needed from our mostly ape main crew. I mean, there's a lot of motion capture going on here, more than ever.
Wow.
I would say CGI-wise, the quality per monkey has gone down slightly. But I feel like there's a couple factors at play. I feel like it's important to note that the visuals of the setting are very bright and sunny, where the last two films have been dark and muddy. We've commented this probably most notably on the Jurassic Park reviews, where you play to your setting. Exactly. Smart VFX will make the scenario most beneficial for how to sell it to the audience. So,
but it is 2024.
Yeah, right.
And it's not as good as 3. Is that what you're saying?
It feels to me quantity over quality. There's so many more apes. There's so
many more. There's a shit ton in 2 and 3.
There's a shit ton, but it's in the fact that like an average soldier will now like have some swagger and like walk up and say something, and it'll be like his mouth like moving like a koba or like any of these characters. You know what I mean? I feel like that just has a lot more demand on the VFX team to be putting this out there.
All right.
Actually, going back to your note, I forget which movie you noted it on, but the physicality of the apes definitely feels a lot more video gamey, a lot more cartoonish, a little bit anime. In the animation of the movement, which I want to say isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think for me, seeing it, it was just like, once again, my thought is quantity over quality. They have taken the tech. It's definitely reproducible. It's able to be done with multiple actors, and they take that and they say, okay, how do we step it up? Well, more of these actors, more of these motion capture type of performances, and that's a lot what the PR circuit is about with this, putting these motion capture actors.
They're all about showing the real actors and the animated stuff. They're really pushing that kind of line. That's what a lot of articles are about.
Yep.
If you had to give it a vinyl rating, the CGI, VG.
VG, yeah, it's still VG.
Very good.
Yeah. Because it's but
not mint.
Yeah, not mint. I'm curious what will be the mint. I don't know if anything. We're pretty hard on CG. But yeah, kind of interesting. A little good and bad overall, though. Par for the course in a good way. Par for the franchise. Right. I feel like they have hit the ground running, especially with just how many people are using what exclusively was reserved for Circus. We also do gain a big role for Freya Allen, who has been on the rise coming from the Witcher Netflix series. She's okay to bad.
I was very curious about her.
Yeah, I'm not trying to just beat up on the poor girl, but I wasn't too bothered by the performance. It's a combination of a couple things. I feel like she's just not great.
Okay.
And also in the role, there's some serious Mary Sue character writing that is bound to piss off the corners of the internet, and maybe for good reason too. She really can do it all.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
She's
a tiny little girl, right?
right. Yeah, that's what I'm like. I'm not trying to beat up her, and she's still young. She's still kind of coming into her own acting.
I think she's only like 22.
Yeah.
I think she's
because she was super young in the Witcher series.
Right.
From what I understand. But it just doesn't help that her character is just burdened with nearly all of the sequel bait aspects that I mentioned, and doesn't give us a clear reason to why she's in the film at all until way over halfway in. Ugh. So it's a little bit like, why? And then it's meh, and then it's like, oh. And the oh is definitely like what she does in a very short amount of time.
Oh, okay, all right.
So, listen, I'll take it back. It's a blockbuster. There's a certain aspect there. It's not about the details in that way, but I feel like for being the sole human actor, very weak, especially if this is going to be her franchise.
Yeah, you really got to bring it. They got to pick a goodie.
Yeah, exactly. Shockingly, though, this movie is a little hard to compare to the previous three films, to the point that I don't think you need to watch any of the homework for this. I feel like this in itself, of what it puts down, separates itself enough, and in the experience of what this movie comes out as.
Interesting.
You really, I was not finding much connective tissue other than what we've been appreciating with like technical elements.
And then and I'm assuming there's enough dialogue around Caesar to kind of just fill you in on, that there was this ape years ago and he was really good at
exactly.
leading.
And we get that in this like Caesar scholar character.
Yeah.
But it's more of like it's not even like a religion or like a quasi-religion. It's like a mythos. It's like what plays into the apes' morality of just like, oh, someone did that back then. Someone didn't hurt other apes back then.
Right.
So kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
But also like way too separate. Almost like a little like petty in how separate it is. It feels like they don't like the trilogy. So. We shed every character to the point that, again, even Caesar is left behind. The tone of the film drastically departs from the moody, gritty realism of the last films. And maybe most of all, the priorities of the story aims to set up yet another franchise to capitalize on the CGI roller coaster these blockbusters are meant to be. With that said, we're going to go ahead and give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes a 54.
Ooh, okay, 54. These are pretty clumped together, really.
Yeah.
So just a tick above Rise.
I think so.
Probably makes sense, yeah.
And also, I feel like I mean, tough to say, but I really feel like I would feel the same way even when we see whatever sequels come out, regardless of their quality. This one, I just felt like there's too much checklist it had to do.
It is interesting to see. It's funny because oftentimes with us, we really like the first one.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The hook.
And maybe this will be the case of maybe this will be the worst one of the main three.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to set up too much or, get across too much. And again, that runway, even though they're going to 2 hours and 25 minutes to do it in this one.
Yeah, right.
It does sound a little boring, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe not good for what they're positioning with the franchise, but if we copy the arc of the last trilogy, where it gets kind of better and better,
that's
not a bad thing either. They find their footing. So
I think overall, though, the thing is, I think the walk away from it, or the takeaway is that you're not excited for more ape films.
No.
Right, exactly.
Certainly not 9.
Right.
In the worst case scenario, I'm dreading 9. So, which means we're probably going back to that Tim Burton, Mark Wahlberg film at some point, just for content.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
I get to, folks, if you want a treat after all this ape talk, really just spoil yourself on the Mark Wahlberg movie. It ends so crazy. Like maybe
we did a bad superhero episode, like superhero movie episode.
Sure.
Maybe we can do bad animal movie episode.
Or bad reboots, maybe.
So we have like Ed. Oh, bad reboots we can do.
You were ready to go ham with the animals. He came out with Ed. He came out swinging with Ed. Babe. I'm trying to think of animal movies.
Babe, but bad. You want to go bad, Babe?
Oh, sure.
Babe might have some heart to it. Okay, all right.
Charlotte's Web.
All right, so looking at by the way, music on this last one, notable or meh?
No notes. No notes.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. And if anything, just kind of fit into that, again, this is supposed to be like very journey adventure, it's much more, it feels more blockbuster than ever before in a lot of ways. So
I don't know why I'm getting vibes that they're going to try to make this Freya Allen, the female lead in this. Even her looks in this, I almost am feeling a Lara Croft Tomb Raider reboot.
Absolutely, man. You nailed it. Absolutely.
Because even speaking of video games, like earlier, I tried the last PC game I ever tried to play. Of the three that I played in my life. One of them being Arthur in 1998. I tried to get into, they tried to reboot Tomb Raider, basically. Yes, yep. And good graphics.
Successfully.
And
that's
PC,
a popular series.
But kind of had the same look as this Freya Allen character.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know. I can't go into spoilers, but also it's kind of not worth unpacking because she really, I mean, it's the most clear-cut Mary Sue writing, and I'm not really one to get bothered by that, but it really,
bothers me more.
It's the most clear-cut, and I feel like it's going to piss off anyone on the internet that remotely cares about that.
Right,
which
or
is a lot of the internet.
looking to pick a fight for it. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, Vin. All right. So looking at these, any last comments you want to make? Looking forward, any notes or roll credits here?
I feel like the only thing I want to note on is that again, all of these do land positive of the side of the ratings. Is a 52? Is a 54 a glamorous score? No, but I don't feel like these movies ever dip into outright bad, and it's because of the visual fidelity behind it. Then,
and when you're at a 72 for the last one for War of the Planet of the Apes, that is a good movie.
Yeah,
72 is a good movie and maybe something to check out. The problem is it is attached to a trilogy, so it's do I do the homework? Do I not? What do we do here?
Yep,
I would say watch 2 and 3. Personally,
I love that. Yep.
I would watch Dawn and War.
Absolutely.
But okay, anyway, Vin, thank you so much for going deep on these 8 films here. Thanks for watching the films and doing all the note taking, stopping by tonight. We want to thank our producer once again, Isaac, executive producer, episode 134. And folks at home, thank you so much for listening. As always, we will see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or get the word out and tell a friend about us. And just a reminder, again, the Daily Ratings is completely producer-supported. We want to stay away from advertising, and we don't want to have any paywalls or tier structures or subscriptions. It's all just value for value. So, are you finding value in any of the things that we're doing here at the Daily Ratings? Then become a producer and donate whatever amount of value that is. Just go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the massive amount of films that Vince has rated. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast.